The drums and gongs blared loudly,
and the firecrackers went off all at once.
with a golden flower pinned to my hat. I rode high on a magnificent horse, basking in the cheers of the people of Qingzhou City.
They roared. The Su family has produced a third-place scholar.
Su Wenyan has brought immense glory to his ancestors. Every single name they screamed was not mine, but I didn't care. As long as it was me standing here, that was enough. But when I returned home, the servants looked at me as if they'd seen a ghost. They all lowered their heads and scurried away. What's wrong with everyone? Why is everyone acting so weird, like they've seen a ghost?
Father, mother,
Your daughter is back. Sister, you must be so tired.
hey, what are you doing? Let go of me.
Wanqing. From this day on, your title as the third-place scholar belongs to your brother.
What did you say?
Wanqing. Mother has arranged a wonderful marriage for you. Squire Shou from the east of the city is offering 800 tiles of silver as a dowry. So, from the very beginning, you made me study. You made me take those exams.
Just for this day?
When I was a child, I used to peer through the window of the village school, trying to listen to the lessons, only for Mother to twist my ear and drag me away.
At night, I had to steal my brother's books.
And study bitterly under the faint moonlight until I turned 16. Mother suddenly said she would hire a tutor to teach me. I was so thrilled. I fell to my knees, kowtowing to thank her. But I was just a decoy for my brother. A mere tool to you all, wasn't I? As his older sister, it's your duty to carry your brother's burdens.
But that policy essay was written by me.
I wrote every single word. He didn't even dare to look at me. That brother of mine, who just stole my entire life, my everything. Everything I worked for, studying relentlessly by the cold window for over 10 years. Is this how it ends? A bowl of cheap porridge was pushed through the gap under the door. The table was covered in a thick layer of dust. I sat in the corner, staring silently at the bowl. I didn't touch it. Wanqing, please eat something.
You haven't had a proper meal in 2 days.
Squire Joe is actually a good man, even though he's a bit up there in years. But he'll treat you so much better. Yeah. 43. 2 years older than my own father.
With those silk shops of his, the policy essay I wrote in the Golden Hall is enough to feed you all for the rest of your lives.
Your brother needs money to grease palms in the capital. 800 tiles of silver for a bride price. So, I'm only worth 800 tiles. Lady Zhao was left speechless. She turned and left in utter humiliation. Sister, I've made you suffer.
Don't worry. Once I make a name for myself in the capital, I will definitely earn an imperial title of honor for you.
Wen Yuan, what was your answer to the third question of your imperial exam essay? Outside the door, there was a long, heavy silence. You won't even last a single day. Starting tomorrow, you will be Su Niwan. Your daughter understands. Tomorrow is the wedding day.
Clean yourself up and get ready. Don't make us a laughingstock to the Shou family.
Yes. I'll do as you say, Mother. You actually agree? See, Mother was right. For a woman, marrying into a good family is more important than anything.
My sudden, unusual obedience
Left her with a lingering doubt as she walked out. The moment the door clicked shut, I slowly raised my head. Early in the morning, my bedroom was filled with a suffocating sea of red. The wedding gown, the bridal veil, the embroidered shoes,
like a pre-written curse, waiting for me, perfectly arranged.
Miss, you look absolutely stunning today.
But they couldn't see my hands, hidden deep within my wide sleeves, clenched tightly into fists.
Gulls and drums deafened the air,
And firecrackers exploded in celebration.
but this grand, lavish spectacle is nothing but a prison built just for me.
My sweet child, once you're at the Zhou estate, you must behave yourself.
And serve Squire Shou well. Mother,
This is the very last time you will ever decide my fate. The carriage curtain fell, shutting out everyone's gaze.
what also marked the start of my battlefield. West Street,
Drum Tower South Lane.
I silently counted down this path to freedom. We're here. It's now.
I yanked open the sedan curtain and leaped out of this luxurious cage. Oh heavens, stop her, quick, stop her!
Behind me, chaos erupted in a flurry of shouts and stampeding horses,
But I didn't dare look back.
because I had only one focus, and the pearls and jewels of my bridal crown, just like my orchestrated destiny,
Shattered and broke piece by piece as I ran.
finally,
I saw that massive drum of grievances. I saw my one and only hope. This strike is to sound the alarm for my own life. Who dares beat the drum to cry grievance? This bridal crown, this lavish wealth,
Was never what I wanted. I, Su Manqiu, a humble citizen,
hereby accuse my biological father, Su Dehan, and my biological mother, Lady Zhao, of 3 heinous crimes. Kneeling here in the Quzhou Prefecture Court and stripping off my bridal red, I ask only for justice. Who stands before this court? What is your accusation? Speak the truth without delay.
I, Su Manqing, a humble citizen, hereby accuse my biological father, Su Deshan,
And my biological mother, Lady Zhao,
of 3 heinous crimes.
The moment these words were spoken, even the crowd outside jostled and shoved, desperate to see what was happening.
First, they used family bonds to force me into taking the imperial exams under a false name, slaving away for 3 years, just to pave the way for my brother, Su Wenyuan.
The crowd instantly erupted into a flurry of shocked whispers, unable to believe their own ears. Second, they stole my academic achievements, pulling off a devious bait and switch. My 3rd place finish in the palace exam, the coveted title of Tanhua, was stolen by the Su family and handed over to Su Wan. The magistrate's teacup froze midair. I finally realized the sheer gravity of the situation. Third, they forced me into a marriage with Old Man Zhou in the east of the city, selling their own daughter for 800 taels of silver,
Just to fund Su Wenyan's social climbing in the capital.
With that, the entire courtroom completely exploded. What? A woman taking the imperial exams? How is this even possible? Master Su, this means the Su family's Tanhua scholar is a fake. Suing your own biological parents is a heinous crime of filial impiety. If you have no proof for your claims, this court will convict you of malicious slander. Your lordship, I have proof. What proof? Please grant me paper and brush, your lordship. Right at this moment, in a quiet corner of the crowd, a pair of eyes is watching everything with deep amusement. This woman is quite interesting. Paper and brush?
What do you need paper and brush for? I will write out the entire palace exam policy essay from memory, word for word, right here in court.
All 3,000 words of it.
If I can write it down without a single mistake, that will be irrefutable proof.
If you do not dare to take this case, your lordship, I will take it straight to the capital. The gates of the imperial censorate are not beyond my reach. Guards, bring out the paper and brush. My first step is a success. Go and investigate everything about this woman. Yes, a much bigger storm might have only just begun. At the center of the court, a long desk is already prepared with ink and paper. I crawl on my knees to the desk, take a deep breath, and pick up the brush. This hand once sewed clothes for him, and once ground ink and laid out paper for him. But now, it is going to write down the evidence of his crimes. The moment the brush touches the paper, an entire world falls silent, leaving only me and this essay that has long been etched into my very soul. I have written this essay 1,000 times in my mind. Every single word is carved into my bones. Every stroke of my brush is made of blood and tears. I am not writing mere words. I am writing my 10 years of grueling study and my stolen life. Time seems to stand still. Everyone is awestruck by this silent accusation. One incense stick burns down, then another. I don't know how much time has passed. All I knew was that I had to finish writing.
3,217 words. Please examine it, Your Honor. The prefect stepped down from behind the grand hall's curtain.
Every step he took felt like it was crushing everyone's hearts. The more his hands trembled as he flipped through the pages, the calmer my heart became. The truth was finally about to come to light. Stroke by stroke, it was an exact match.
With such ironclad evidence right here, let's see how they try to deny it now.
This handwriting is, indeed. But just at that moment, a sudden commotion erupted from outside. The people I dreaded seeing the most had actually showed up. Your Honor! Your Honor!
Please see the truth, Your Honor.
Our daughter has lost her mind. Just because she didn't want to get married, she made up this outrageous lie to slander her own family. Your Honor, she has been stubborn since she was a child. We arranged a perfectly good marriage for her, but she refused and ran here to spout all this nonsense. Your Honor, I am the newly crowned third-place scholar, Su Wenyuan. I earned my academic title myself through the exams. My sister only resorted to such a desperate scheme out of jealousy and hatred. Looking at the official robe on him, the one that should have belonged to me, I actually burst out laughing.
laughing at how ridiculously absurd this world is. Who on earth is telling the truth? I am. But Scholar Su certainly looks like a real scholar. Since Scholar Su claims he earned the title himself, why not test him right here in court? Who are you? So, just a passing merchant, here to watch the excitement. But in my opinion, true talent cannot be faked. Assisting him will make everything clear, won't it? That's right.
Yes, test him.
Let's see if he's the real deal. Put him to the test. In an instant, I saw the mask of composure on his face shatter. Under the pressure of the roaring crowd, the prefect had no choice but to nod in agreement. He prepared to hold an exam right there in court.
Very well, Scholar Su.
I will set 3 questions. Answer the questions right here in court. My younger brother, Su Wenyuan, was standing in the center of the hall. Behind his back, his fingertips were trembling uncontrollably. First question, the opening of the Great Learning. Recite. The way of the Great Learning lies in illustrating illustrious virtue, in loving the people, With a settled mind, one can find tranquility. With tranquility, one can find peace. The peace, one can deliberate. The deliberation, one can attain. Second question. What is meant by the investigation of things? Beside him, Mother was so anxious she kept wringing her handkerchief, almost tearing it to shreds. These are the Emperor's own red ink annotations on the palace exam paper. Would our brilliant third-place scholar, Su Wenyuan, care to explain just one of them? I watched as my brother's pupils dilated with terror. His face was as pale as death. He can't even recognize the essay he supposedly wrote. Just as I thought. It is all a sham. Wenyuan, I told you long ago, you wouldn't be able to carry this off. Silence! The courtroom is not an exam hall. Just suspect in court is highly irregular and shall not be admitted as evidence, Your Honor. The evidence is ironclad. On what grounds are you refusing to accept it? Guards, drag her out. Hurry. Let go of me. Father secretly let out a sigh of relief. Mother covered her face in tears, while Father remained dead silent. Just like that, I was dragged out of the courtroom and thrown into yet another cell. I risked my life to escape, only to end up trading one cell for another. Looking at my dust-covered wedding dress, I suddenly laughed. A laugh of pure, bitter despair. The night grew deep, but the moonlight couldn't pierce this endless darkness. The prefect has ordered the case to be closed first thing tomorrow morning. 30 strokes of the paddle. Then, send me back to the Su family. I will never accept this fate. In the deep of the night, inside the prefect's dungeon, only a flickering, dying oil lamp cast its weak, unsteady light across my face. Right then, unhurried footsteps echo from the end of the long corridor. A middle-aged man in a coarse cotton robe appears alone before the iron bars. How did you get in here? Silver works wonders. You don't look like a merchant. Why would a merchant visit a female prisoner he doesn't even know? What's the catch? Just curiosity. A woman daring to write a 3,000-word policy essay right there in court. I've never seen one before. He casually sits down outside the iron bars, as if this isn't a filthy prison, but his own courtyard. I heard parts of your river governance essay in court. Your plan to divide and manage the lower Yellow River is quite novel. But where does the money for the work relief come from? That question strikes at the very heart of the matter. The annual salt tax accounts for 30% of the national treasury. Yet, less than 10% is actually spent on the people's livelihood. If we cut down the redundant offices in the salt administration, the money saved would be enough to set up 30 relief stations along the riverbanks. The national policy of valuing agriculture over commerce, do you think it's right? Not entirely. Agriculture is the foundation, but commerce is the lifeblood. With bones but no blood, a person cannot survive. We should open up certain industries and let merchants pay taxes to trade freely. The court gets its tax revenue, and the common people get a way to survive. It is a win-win. He falls silent for a moment. His eyes shift, reflecting something new, something I cannot quite decipher. That palace exam essay, if you were to rewrite it, could you still do it? Not only can I write it, it will be even better than the one from 3 months ago. Why? Because I've figured out 2 shortcomings. First, managing a river isn't just about managing the water. If the local officials along the banks do nothing, even the best strategy is just a piece of paper. Second, water management shouldn't be left to the government alone. We should involve the locals along the river. They have lived by the banks for generations, and they understand the water better than any official. I will come see you again the day after tomorrow. You still haven't told me who you are. It's better for you not to know. Tomorrow morning, the prefect is going to have you transferred. 30 strokes of the paddle.
then drag her back to the Su family. Those words felt like a bucket of ice water poured right over my head, leaving me completely frozen. How did you know?
He said he would return the day after tomorrow.
But I won't even survive until tomorrow. My only sliver of hope was completely crushed. Before dawn even broke,
The prefect rushed to open court. This frantic setup made it obvious. He wanted to bury this case quickly. After a sleepless night, this wedding dress felt like a silent mockery, suffocating me with its weight.
Su Wanqing is unfilial and rebellious,
Fabricating rumors to disrupt this court. The undeniable proof of her guilt. This court sentences you to 30 strokes of the paddle and banishment back to the Su family. You didn't even look at all the evidence. You dare defy me? Insolent. Guards, carry out the punishment. Before the agonizing pain of the wooden staff could even hit me, humiliation and resentment had already drowned me. In this very moment, time felt like it was stretched to infinity. Suddenly, there was a thunderous crash.
the sheer force left my ears ringing.
Stop. Whose men are they?
These armored guards definitely do not belong to the Qingzhou prefectural government.
That figure. I feel like I've seen him somewhere before.
It's him. The man who spoke to me through the cell bars last night.
His rough cotton robe had been replaced by a brilliant yellow dragon robe.
How is this possible?
Your Majesty.
He's the Emperor. I, the Emperor, would love to see whose law actually rules this prefecture.
Your servant.
Your servant begs for mercy. I have sinned. My parents and brother were also petrified with fear. They probably never imagined they would lay eyes on the Son of Heaven in their entire lives. Indeed, knowing the truth only made their terror worse. So he had already seen through everything. He actually stepped up and took the prefect's seat. At this moment, he was no longer a mere bystander. He was the supreme judge.
从完形式田氏。
I will personally preside over this trial. Bring everyone in. The main hall of Qingzhou Prefecture has now become a prison, with the Emperor himself presiding. Guards, bring the original palace examination paper. A sealed 7-locked chest was opened. The original exam paper, the very document that decided our family's fate, was presented to him. He took only a single glance at it. Then, he tossed it onto his desk, as if it were nothing but a worthless scrap of paper. Su Wenyuan.
Your Majesty.
I am here. Did you write this treatise on governance and harmony?
To answer Your Majesty.
Yes, Your Majesty. I wrote it.
Very well.
Then write it again.
Your time limit is 1 stick of incense.
His brush felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds. He couldn't even dip it in the ink properly. His hands were stained pitch black.
Time slipped away, grain by grain, with the rising blue smoke.
His sweat dripped onto the white paper, smudging the ink into messy blots, just like his chaotic, terrified mind. When it was presented, there were only 4 characters on the paper. I deserve to die. There was no expression on the Emperor's face, but that silence was far more terrifying than a storm of imperial rage.
Wanqing, it's your turn.
I didn't hesitate. My every step was steady and firm. This was my only chance. I set my brush to paper, writing with furious speed. Those words, long since etched into my very bones and blood, were my only weapon now. The entire hall was so quiet. The only sound was the rustle of my brush gliding across the paper. Your Majesty, the original text is 3,217 words. I have not changed a single character. Furthermore, I have added 3 new sections at the end. This revised treatise contains my latest reflections. This time, his gaze lingered for a long moment, especially on the pages where I had made those additions. The entire hall fell dead silent. Everyone's fate hung on his single decision. My palms were slick with sweat. I had no idea he would pass judgment. Finally, he spoke. With just a single sentence, my heart instantly plummeted. The Emperor's voice wasn't loud. It cut straight to the bone like a sharp blade.
For Su Wenyuan's crime of identity theft
And treasonous deception. The exact moment the words, "execute the entire clan," echoed through the hall, the courtroom erupted as if a bomb had just gone off. My eyes rolled back, and I collapsed straight backward, passing out cold right there on the floor. Your Majesty! Your Majesty! Please spare us. We forced him into this. He knew absolutely nothing, please. I am guilty. I am guilty, Your Majesty. I beg for Your Majesty's mercy. Execute the entire clan.
Ali sued them for stealing my achievements and selling me off as a concubine. I never wanted them to die.
So Wanqing,
This case started because of you. So, I will give you a single chance. You shall decide whether they live or die.
万晴，万晴，
That's your little brother. He is your own flesh and blood. Sister. Sister, please save me.
I don't want to die.
They lied to me. They exploited me. They treated me like nothing but an object. But they are still my father, my mother, and my little brother. The Emperor's eyes are fixed on me. My mother is desperately clinging to my ankles, while my brother's blood drips into his own eyes. My lips tremble, about to utter the single word that will decide their fate. I suddenly snap my eyes open. After a brief moment of daze, my gaze instantly hardens like cold iron. Your Majesty, they are indeed guilty. But their crimes do not deserve death. In that exact moment, I feel Lady Zhao's limp hands suddenly clamp onto my ankles with a death grip. Give me a reason. We haven't. If they hadn't forced me to study, I wouldn't have ever had the chance to pick up a brush. For my 3 years of hard study, the tutor's fees, the brushes, ink, paper, and inkstones, even my food, clothing, shelter, and travel. Everything was paid for by the Su family. Though their intentions were never for my sake, they objectively gave me my only chance. High above, the Emperor narrowed his eyes slightly, seemingly re-evaluating the insignificant woman standing before him. This humble subject begs for 3 things. Speak. What is the first? Trek Pool name one of his title as the 3rd-place scholar, and ban him from the imperial examinations forever. From the corner of my eye, I saw Su Wenyuan tremble violently. He only kept his head lowered, utterly silent. As for the second, the Su family must compensate me 500 taels of silver for my 3 years of education to serve as my future livelihood. Hearing the sum of 500 taels, Du Dahan, who had just regained consciousness, felt his lips quiver violently, yet he forced himself to swallow his words. As for the third, the Su family must post a public notice at the gates of Qinzhou, confessing to the identity theft, to clear my name and restore my innocence. The entire courtroom fell into a deathly silence. The air seemed to freeze, and everyone held their breath. Lady Zhao collapsed to the ground, weeping bitterly, while Sodishan remained kneeling on the ground, tears streaming down his old face, his face a picture of utter defeat. A steady set of footsteps approached, and that immensely imposing figure slowly came to a halt, right in front of me. Su Wanqing, you have pleaded for your family. But I still have one question. I took a deep breath, sharply lifted my head, and looked directly into that towering, irresistible, and majestic gaze. You entered the imperial examinations. As a woman, this too is a violation of imperial law. How then should your own 3rd-place scholar title be handled? I have begged a way out for them, but where is my own path? In the brave, deathly silence, the emperor who ruled the world stared intently down at me. I bit my lip hard, raised my chin once more, and said, "This humble subject does not seek titles or fame. I only beg your majesty to grant justice to all the talented minds of the world. Talent should never be buried, just because of gender." He didn't utter a single word. He turned and walked straight back to his desk, picking up the red ink brush to write with bold, sweeping strokes across the imperial decree. Su Wanqing is to report to the capital immediately, to a scholar of academic merit. I, the emperor, await you in the capital. A heavy, thin silk scroll was firmly placed in my hands. The bright, vermilion ink on it was strikingly bold. Go to the capital. Go? I heard that on that day, in the Golden Throne Hall, the atmosphere during the morning audience was suffocatingly tense. Grand Precept Rongzhong took a large step forward out of the ranks of civil officials, holding a memorial tightly in his hand, the very document that would decide my fate. Your Majesty, I submit an impeachment.
Su Wanqing, a woman from Qinzhou, disguised herself as a man to sneak into the imperial examinations.
This is treason and a direct deception of the emperor. It ruins our sacred moral order. If this precedent is set, women all over the empire will follow suit, and the integrity of the imperial examinations will be completely destroyed. We agree, Your Majesty. We agree, Your Majesty. Right in the middle of this completely one-sided court, Shen Dai, a young compiler of the Hanlin Academy, stepped forward. I beg to differ, Your Majesty. Su Wanqing's palace examination essay completely outshone all others. Her talent and learning are obvious to everyone. Valuing talent regardless of gender is a great blessing for our empire. If the imperial court dismisses her brilliant talent simply because she is a woman, would that not be like cutting off our own arms? Completer Shen is young and reckless. The laws of our ancestors cannot be discarded. The sacred moral order cannot be disrupted.
If we tolerate one Su Wanqiu today, will we have to allow women to enter the court as officials tomorrow?
If the laws of our ancestors can never be changed,
Then the imperial examinations themselves shouldn't even exist.
the examinations began in the Sui dynasty.
Before the Sui, officials were selected based on recommendation. If everyone stubbornly insisted that ancestral laws can never change, I'm afraid you, Grand Preceptor, wouldn't even have the right to stand in this hall today. These words landed like a sharp slap to the face.
Roncho's face instantly turned pale with rage.
Unable to utter a single word, the court erupted in an instant uproar. Officials from both sides arguing endlessly, their voices growing louder and louder. Meanwhile, high up on the dragon throne, the emperor remained completely silent, not saying a word. He only held his teacup, slowly scraping the tea foam with his couplet, taking his sweet time. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, in a capital city inn, I sat staring at a cup of tea that had gone completely cold. My entire fate was being fought over thousands of miles away by a room full of strangers. But they weren't fighting for me, Su Wanqing. They were arguing over a matter of principle, whether it was right or wrong for someone like me to be there. Suddenly, a frantic pounding on the door shattered the dead silence. Standing outside was a palace eunuch, holding a bright, golden imperial decree in his hands.
苏耀卿，如昔给人批也得。
By the grace of heaven,
The emperor decrees
Wanqing is to enter the palace immediately.
to have my talent tested in the Golden Hall. I stepped into the Golden Throne Room, where hundreds of officials stood in solemn silence. This was my exam hall today, and my battlefield. I walked into this grand hall, filled with elite officials in their vibrant red and purple robes, wearing nothing but my simple,
like a drop of cold water falling into boiling oil.
countless eyes locked onto me. Their contemptuous, judging stares felt like thorns piercing my back. My rivals were already in their places. Zhou Zheng, the newly crowned top scholar, and Li Mingguan, the arrogant second-place scholar who looked down on everyone,
主讲我不破赖的呢。
giving me a slight nod. But Li Mingguan didn't even bother to hide his disdain. He just let out a cold snort. Today, a special imperial exam was held in the Golden Hall to test the talents of the three of us.
3 essay topics.
With a time limit of 4 hours, the examiner presented the question papers, 3 sheets of paper, yet they felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds. Reforming corruption, border defense strategies, and tax relief. These were all critical matters of state. I took a deep breath and lifted my brush. It was all or nothing. Inside the grand hall, the only sound was the scratching of brushes on paper.
Time slipped away to the steady dripping of the water clock.
Zhou Zheng wrote with calm, steady precision.
Li Mingguan wrote with flowing, effortless confidence.
And I wrote furiously, without a single pause, completely focused, blocking out the entire world. As the 4-hour mark drew to a close, I finally put down my brush. The ink on my 3 policy essays was still wet. My papers were collected and handed over to the 3 examiners. Now, all that was left was to wait for the final verdict. Your Majesty, we have finished grading the 3 papers. Su Wanqing answered all 3 questions, and her 3rd essay on tax relief is absolutely brilliant. Zhu Jing received 2 excellents and 1 good. Meaning 1 received 1 excellent and 2 goods. A dead silence fell over the court. Then came a low buzz of whispers, surging like a rising tide. I won. At least in terms of talent, I won. Your Majesty, I have something to say.
Speak.
Lady Su's talent is indeed exceptional, and I admire her for it. But I must ask one thing. Does writing a good essay make someone a good official? Since ancient times, there has never been a precedent for a woman to hold office. If your Majesty breaks this rule today, tomorrow, women across the land will follow suit. The integrity of our imperial examinations will be utterly destroyed. I ask you, Lady Su, is your individual talent worth shaking 1,000 years of tradition? Once again, everyone's eyes locked onto me. He thought this question would stump me and condemn me to defeat right here in the Golden Throne Hall. But he was wrong. Kneeling in the center of this majestic hall, I could feel the suffocating weight of their judging gazes pressing in from all sides. But even under the intense scrutiny of the entire imperial court, I would never bow my head, not even by an inch. Grand Tutor, allow me, a humble woman, to ask you a question in return. The imperial examination system began in the Sui dynasty and has existed for barely 300 years. Before those 300 years, when there was no exam system, did that mean there were no talents? Hearing my sharp retort, Grand Tutor Wang's expression remained completely calm, but she subtly leaned back an inch, pulling away. The state of Qim thrived on Xiangyang's reforms. The Han dynasty ruled through recommendations and summonings. The Jin dynasty established the 9-rank system. Every single dynasty has changed.
Every single generation has evolved.
Only by adapting to the times can a system survive. If everyone blindly clung to old ways, your lordship wouldn't even be standing in this golden hall today.
The moment the words left my mouth,
The entire golden hall fell into a deathly silence.
you could hear a pin drop.
I do not ask for every woman in the world to enter government.
I only ask that talented people are not buried simply because of their gender.
If a nation only utilizes the talents of half its people, it will only have half its destined strength.
At the far end of the hall, on the dragon throne,
The poised vermilion brush suddenly froze in midair.
the Emperor's expression shifted slightly.
Well said.
As the Emperor's voice echoed,
The silent court erupted like boiling water.
the officials instantly fell into an uproar.
Pass the imperial decree. Wanqing will not receive a formal post for now,
She is granted the honorary title of Gentleman of Righteousness.
and assigned to the Hanlin Academy to compile historical records.
To see how she performs.
Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of Graham Tudor Wong's smirk, instantly freezing on his face. He quickly forced his expression back to normal and stepped back into the ranks. In the crowd, only Lord Shen's gaze pierced through the gaps, casting a barely perceptible look of relief toward me. I pressed my forehead hard against the freezing golden floor tiles,
Bowing deeply to express my gratitude.
The floor was bone-chillingly cold. To see how she performs,
It sounded like a blessing.
but in reality, it was a test.
In the Imperial Court, nothing ever comes for free.
The gray walls and dark tiles of the Hanlin Academy felt completely lifeless. The deep, dark corridors were lined with dusty bookshelves that reached all the way to the ceiling.
I stepped into the dilapidated study assigned to me.
There was only a single desk, Kater, and a mountain of messy scrolls piled in the corner. I sat down at the weathered desk and reached out to pull open the drawer, planning to put away my personal belongings. To my surprise, the drawer was not empty.
A neatly folded slip of paper was lying quietly inside. Without a moment's hesitation, I lifted the white paper with my fingertip and slowly unfolded it before my eyes. Know your place. I stared at those words for 3 long seconds.
Then I folded the note back up
And calmly tucked it deep into my sleeve.
My cold gaze swept outside the window. Several officials peering in from the hallway scattered like startled birds. I was snatching food from the tiger's mouth. I had stepped on everyone's faces to walk through this, and they would never let me off easily. I turned back around, picked up the ink brush on the desk, soaked it in thick ink, and began clearing the mountain of documents on my desk. It didn't matter. I endured 12 years in the Sioux family and 7 days in the woodshed. What did these cold glares even matter? On my 3rd day at the Hanlin Academy, I thought it would be the start of quiet, dull scholarship. Little did I know, a storm was already waiting for me.
But when I reached the door of my office,
My feet ground to a sudden halt.
my desk had been completely dragged out into the freezing, wind-swept corridor.
Several gloating faces peered out from the adjacent offices, whispering among themselves, "Oh dear, why is Miss Sue's desk all the way out here?
Maybe your office is just too small.
And couldn't fit it?" I completely ignored them and simply bent down to gather my scattered dignity, page by page, from the floor. Then I sat down firmly in the corridor. No matter how fierce the wind blew, it couldn't disturb a single stroke of my brush. By afternoon, the provocations escalated. A cup of strong tea was splashed squarely onto the document I was almost finished writing. The ink bled out instantly, like the dark, festering jealousy eating away at their hearts.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I didn't see you sitting here, Miss Sue. I stared down at the ruined paper.
My fingers clenched, then slowly released.
Anger is useless. All I could do was write it again. Without saying a word, I simply pulled out a fresh sheet of paper and started over from the very first word. Late at night, I had only the archives for company. Instead of wasting breath arguing with people, I chose to find answers amidst their mountain of stubborn dogmas. The water conservancy records used for generations were actually riddled with errors.
The hydrological timelines
Didn't match the historical citations at all. I laid out the paper in bamboo scrolls, attaching my meticulous evidence, from abstract theories to concrete proof, a total of 13,000 words. The next day, I presented the manuscript. Seeing the astonished expressions of the scholars, I knew I had won.
In this first round, all 17 errors were backed by original source citations.
This research is terrifyingly solid.
Some of these errors we've used for decades without ever realizing.
In the crowd, only Shen Dai gave me a slight nod. It was a silent gesture of validation. Returning to my office, my desk had finally been moved back. I opened my book chest, planning to take out my reference materials. But the moment I opened the chest, my hands froze. The chest was half empty. The manuscript I had poured my heart and soul into all night was gone. What I submitted earlier was only a copy. The original had been locked in my book chest all along. The lock on the chest hadn't been forced. Someone had opened it with a key. I slowly closed the chest. A new war has already begun. I went to the chief scholar to ask about the whereabouts of my original draft.
But he told me that scholar assistant Li Xian had already submitted it.
Li Xian had already come by yesterday to submit a manuscript he claimed to have compiled himself.
I can say another word. I turned around and walked straight toward Li Xian's office.
Already formulating a plan in my mind.
The whole Li Xian was sitting leisurely in his office, sipping tea. The eager embroidery on his official robe was exceptionally eye-catching.
Master Li, my manuscript is in your hands, isn't it?
What are you talking about, Miss Su?
That is something I spent 3 days compiling myself.
But I wrote that manuscript last night.
13,000 words. 10 articles. Each with original citations and page numbers. If word got out that a woman compiled this, it would bring shame upon the Hanlin Academy.
Putting my name on it was to help you.
Help a mere woman like you.
After all, you're just a woman. If your name was on it, who would ever acknowledge it? Since Lord Li claims he wrote it, then why don't we both write it out?
Let's see who can actually do it.
I spread out the blank paper, plucked up the brush, and began to write.
The brush tip danced across the paper.
13,000 words, not a single one out of place. Now, please write it out from memory as well, Lord Li.
Li Xian's face flushed with alternating shades of pale and red, cold sweat pouring down his forehead. He couldn't utter a single word.
The academician pushed through the crowd,
Picked up both manuscripts and compared them. The truth was plain for all to see.
Guards, change the signature on the publication back to Wanqing. Later, the Grand Tutor invited me to a banquet. The last Hanlin newcomer who received the Grand Tutor's invitation
Was promoted to Expiser Academician just 3 months later. And the last person who rejected the Grand Tutor's invitation
was banished to Lingyan to compile county records 6 months later. At the residence of Grand Tutor Rongchal,
the moonlight flowed like water.
The place where he held the banquet was not the front hall,
but this quiet, secluded back garden.
He acted like a kind, warm elder,
Personally, pouring wine for me. But I kept reminding myself of where I was.
keeping my back straight as a board.
No need to be so formal, Miss Su.
We told tough official matters today.
Only personal friendship.
You speak too highly of me, Grand Tutor. This humble official would not dare.
I have read your manuscript for the Hanlin Academy publication. 17 errors, several of which even I hadn't noticed.
We praise me too highly, Grand Tutor.
Miss Su, let me speak to you from the bottom of my heart.
You possess the talent of a prime minister.
But unfortunately, you were born at the wrong time.
The court is full of traditionalists.
If you walk forward alone against the spit in scorn of tens of thousands,
You won't make it far.
I held my wine cup, completely frozen.
The wine was warm, but my heart was cold.
You need a strong shield.
I may not be much, but I have spent 30 years building my influence in this court, and I am willing to shelter you from any storm. The Grand Priester's kindness is deeply appreciated.
But I must ask, what is it you need me to do?
At last, his mask slipped.
He pulled a few pages of paper from his wide sleeve. These are outlines of a proposal to reform the salt administration. I'm getting old, and my hand is too weak to write. So I wanted to ask you, Miss Su, to polish this on my behalf.
I took the documents,
Flipping through them page by page, a cold chill seeped into my fingertips from the paper. The core proposal was to transfer the power of collecting salt taxes from the Ministry of Revenue down to local governments. On back was a list of 12 regional governors. Every single one of them had deep, tangled ties to him. Handing tax collection over to the provinces.
Juvenile men. This isn't a reform.
It's a scheme to funnel the national treasury straight into his own pocket. This is a matter of grave importance.
Please allow me to go back and consider this carefully. No rush.
Take your time, Miss Yu. The moment I got back to my quarters,
I flung open my book chest,
pulling out every salt administration report and Ministry of Revenue ledger I could find. I laid out the papers. I began auditing the records, year by year. Every single digit could be hiding a dark secret.
As the candlelight flickered, the bright moon outside gave way to the dawn.
I didn't sleep a wink. My fingers were covered in painful blisters from flipping the pages so fast, but I didn't care. In just 3 years, over 2 million tiles of salt tax had vanished into thin air. The Ministry of Revenue's books showed the revenue was received, but the amounts dispersed to the provinces didn't match up. Where did the discrepancy go?
Yongqiu isn't reforming the system.
He's using the salt tax to fund an invisible web. And I am the next prey he wants to trap in it. The next day, I waited until the Hanlin Academy workshop was empty, leaving only Shendai. This was my best chance to act. I stepped inside quickly and shut the door behind me. The sharp click of the lock sealed us off from the outside world.
Lord Shen, there is something wrong with the salt administration.
I quickly laid out the shocking figures from my audit last night. 2 million tiles. Are you sure?
I checked it 3 times.
He stood up abruptly.
and hurried over to the window,
He peered outside, cautiously.
making sure no one was eavesdropping. Rongchul has controlled the Salt Administration for over a decade. No one in the imperial court dares to touch him. They have replaced the censors wave after wave. And the first thing every new censor learns is to keep their mouth shut. Which is why we need to get concrete evidence first.
How?
I will dig through the past Salt Administration archives here in the Highland Academy and look for loopholes in the paperwork. I have already contacted some old friends in the local offices to get the actual salt tax revenue data. Once we compare the two, the missing millions will be exposed. He stared at me in silence. Those few seconds of silence felt heavier than any words.
So Wanqing, do you have any idea what you are doing? If Wanqing finds out, both of our lives won't be enough to pay for this.
I know.
You are just as stubborn as you were in court.
Fine, I am in this with you. I took his hand and gave it a firm squeeze. It was a silent vow and the beginning of a massive gamble.
That night, a faint sound jolted me from my light sleep. In the darkness, danger crept in. I held my breath and heard a faint rustling from the study next door.
Someone had broken in. I did not make a sound. Slowly, I reached under my pillow and grabbed a pair of scissors. It was my only weapon, keeping my back pressed against the wall. I crept like a cat, making absolutely no sound as I moved toward the study door.
But the study was empty.
But every single incense burner had been thrown open.
The place was an absolute mess.
It looked like it had been completely ransacked. Yet, nothing was missing. It wasn't until I walked over to my desk that I noticed 2 new things lying there. One was a white bell. The other was a warning. A smart person knows when to keep their mouth shut. The person who ransacked my place knows everything about me.
He isn't an outsider.
He is right here in the Hanlin Academy.
Ranchol has a spy right by my side. Until I find out who it is,
I can't afford to make another move.
I shut the window that had been pried open, shutting out the cold midnight wind.
And locking away my fear, I went back to bed, clutching that white bell tightly in my hand. I didn't sleep a wink all night. At dawn, I sat at my desk. 3 slips of paper, each with a fake message, were ready. This is a trap I've set, designed solely to draw out the spy hiding in the shadows. Jiaokri, I'm heading to the West City study this afternoon to buy some local gazettes.
Have a carriage ready for me.
首先你
The 3 pieces of fake news I plan to leak will go to Jiao Kui, Old Zhou, and Afu. Old Zhao, help me retrieve a few volumes from the Yoning era. Just act as if I need them urgently tomorrow morning, okay?
No problem.
Lady Su. Afu.
Deliver a message to Lord Shen for me. Tell him I'll be organizing some vital documents at my place the night after next, and I'd like him to help me look them over.
Understood, Lady Su. With the trap set,
All that's left for me to do is wait. The first day passed without a ripple.
the second day was just as quiet. My patience is being put to the test. Miss Su,
The bookstore in the West City has been closed lately.
if you want to buy books, you'll have to go to the East City.
That single sentence connected all the dots in an instant.
The fish has taken the bait.
It's Xiao Pei. What do we do now? We play it cool. Don't startle them. Ticking around is much more useful than replacing her. Now that we've identified the mole, I must hide the real evidence immediately. This Buddhist scripture will carry the power to turn the tides. Hide it right here, safe from all prying eyes.
But I never expected the enemy's counterattack to come so quickly.
And so ruthlessly. As soon as I reached the door, all I saw was his deathly pale face. I knew right then something was terribly wrong. The transfer order. Exile to the northwest border, starting today. To build defenses. Why do you leave? Immediately. Only open this if you have absolutely no other choice.
He walked away without looking back.
Leaving me with only a resolute silhouette and this heavy letter.
What secrets are hidden inside this letter? Under the solitary lamp, in the dead of night, I sit quietly at my desk.
Spread out before me is a thick stack of documents. Enough to shake the entire empire. I've organized the evidence into a formal petition of impeachment. Every single sum Wanqing embezzled is laid out on this paper, line by line. Shen has been taken away. I can't wait any longer.
3 days from now is the Grand Assembly.
I will personally hand this petition.
directly to the emperor.
I pick up a pair of scissors and carefully cut open the lining of my inner robe.
Singing the real petition inside, stitch by stitch.
If they search my body, all they'll find is a fake. The real one stays right against my skin. I blow out the solitary lamp
And close my eyes in the dark.
quietly waiting for the oncoming storm. The day of the Grand Assembly.
The sky is barely light.
As I blend into the crowd of officials, following the flow of people through the dark, imposing palace gates, I walk among them, my face devoid of emotion, forcing myself to control my breathing and keeping my steps as steady and calm as they've always been. To get from the palace gates to the Golden Throne Room, you have to pass 3 checkpoints. First, the Imperial Guards inspect your badge. Second, the eunuchs search you. Third, the palace guards do a full body search.
I slowly raise my arms.
Feeling the petition hidden deep inside the lining of my robe.
That stiff little bundle is the only thing giving me the courage to keep going.
The guard's razor-sharp gaze sweeps over me
As I calmly stand and let them inspect my things.
Having cleared the first 2 deadly checkpoints, the towering steps of the Golden Throne Room are finally right in front of me. As the deafening bells and drums echo through the air, the court officials file up the stairs like a swarm of ants. I take a deep breath of the chilly morning air, my chest rising and falling. I steel myself and take my first step toward the Grand Hall. To 17 more steps, and I'll be standing right in the center of the hall. Lord Su, the Grand Priester requests your presence. I freeze instantly. The officials around me quickly steer clear, avoiding me like the plague. In a split second, I am left completely alone on the empty steps. Following the guard's gaze, I turn my head
And see someone standing in the shadows at the end of the corridor. It's Wanqing, flanked by 6 armed guards.
The all-powerful Grand Preceptor wears
A smug, confident smirk, his eyes filled with mocking amusement.
Instinctively, I reach for my inner pocket, and the blood in my veins completely freezes.
The fake petition, the decoy, is gone.
When did they steal it?
Was it at the first checkpoint? The second? Or just now, on the stairs?
This way, Lord Su. The heavy carved doors of the Golden Throne Room slowly creak shut right in front of me, completely locking the powerful echo of the bells and drums behind the thick wood. I stand frozen on the steps, staring blankly at the closed doors, before turning around to follow the guards into the pitch-black corridor. What he took was a fake, but I can't get into the hall anymore.
Zhou Chang's sinister smile looms large in my mind.
My pupils contract. This is a true game of life and death, and the trap has only just begun to snap shut. The doors and windows of the side chamber are tightly shut.
Yo Chong sat tall in his grand armchair, oozing authority.
Right in front of him lay the fake petition he had seized from me. The guards kept their eyes locked on me as I stood trapped before him. He picked up the so-called evidence, flipping through the pages with sheer arrogance. But in an instant, his smug grin completely vanished. His brow furrowed deeper and deeper into a tight, angry knot. When he reached the very last page, he glared intensely at the handwriting. Without a second thought, he ripped the papers to shreds and tossed them all into the brazier, watching them burn to ashes.
Wanqing, I gave you a chance.
He spat, suddenly rising from his chair. He stormed right up to me, getting so close I could feel the sheer, suffocating malice radiating off him. Starting today, all your duties at the Hanlon Academy are suspended. Go back to your manor and wait for further investigation.
On what grounds do you suspend me, Grand Preceptor?
I am a court official, personally appointed by His Majesty. On what grounds? How about the fact that last night you illegally broke into the court's secret archives? Hanlon Academitining Gount Shutan has already impeached you. Hearing this, a shiver ran down my spine.
My mind went completely blank, ringing with shock.
Even the Chancellor of the Academy was one of his men. You are far more fragile than this paper. A clever person should know when to back off. He lazily clapped his hands twice. The 2 Imperial guards stationed at the door immediately drew their blades and stepped forward. They flanked me on both sides, locking me in place. Escort Lord Su back to her manor. Make sure she gets plenty of rest, and tell her to stop sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. I was roughly dragged out of the palace gates by them. With no way to fight back, I was shoved into an unmarked, run-down carriage. The carriage jolted and swayed violently, the curtains tied shut so tightly that not a single sliver of light could get through. My palms were drenched in cold sweat, but I couldn't help but let a smirk slip onto my face. What he burned was a fake. The real petition is still on me. I carefully felt the paper hidden away in a secret lining near my belly. The stiff texture of it brought me a sliver of relief. But I've been suspended. Imperial guards will never let me set foot in the palace again, and Wanqiu spies will be watching my house day and night. I can barely even step outside, The carriage finally came to a halt. I was dragged back to my quarters under guard.
The courtyard gates were locked tight.
Two burly, brute-looking maids stood on either side, glaring at me like fierce temple guardians. Yet another prison. No different from the Su family's woodshed.
Bearing their watchful, mocking glares,
I walked inside, my face completely expressionless, and slammed the door shut behind me, shutting out the rest of the world. But this time, I won't wait for someone else to save me.
I must find another way
To get the memorial into the Emperor's hands.
I walked over to the simple bed and sat down.
Forcing myself to close my eyes. My mind raced desperately, searching for a way to break this deadlock. Suddenly, a dangerous, crazy spark of inspiration cut through the darkness. I snapped my eyes open. What is Wanqing most afraid of?
It's not the evidence in my hands. It's that I am beyond his control.
So, what if I become someone he can control? On the third day of my house arrest, I had to take the initiative. This is my only way out. Sister Fenchu, send a message to the Grand Priester for me.
Tell him Wanqing has finally seen the light.
Begging for an audience. That very afternoon, I was brought to the Grand Preceptor. The atmosphere was even more suffocating than I had imagined. So, you've seen the light? This humble official was foolish.
And took the wrong path.
But now, I realize I need a powerful tree to lean on. And what makes you think I should trust you? Oh. This is my pledge of loyalty. This essay is better than 10 written by those useless fools in the Hanlin Academy. Good. From this day forward,
You are my disciple.
my defection to Wanqing was like a bombshell, sending shockwaves through the capital's political circles. All those years studying the classics, utterly wasted. I told you so. A woman is just a woman, after all. In the dead of night, I can finally face my true self and the old friend who came from the frontier. Every single word of his letter was his final act of tenderness, and also his heaviest burden. Shendai,
You'll understand.
we haven't reached a point of absolute desperation yet. I need to get my hands on that master ledger. The tax evasion ledger that will nail him down for good. Posing as the Grand Tutor's disciple, I successfully infiltrated Wanqing's inner circle.
Handing all of his confidential affairs.
I worked day and night, writing furiously at my desk while he stood by, reviewing my work. Slowly, a look of approval grew in his eyes. I received visiting officials on his behalf, answering them with effortless poise. I even sorted out a highly sensitive personnel transfer for him. In just one short month, I completely won his trust. He even started discussing sensitive matters in front of me. Then, one day, Wanqing was having a private conversation with his new wife in the study while I was outside, organizing documents. The winter solstice is set for November 15th. Once the imperial carriage leaves the palace gates, this is not the place to talk. With a loud bang, the door slammed shut. My heart sank along with it. The winter solstice. The imperial carriage leaving the palace. They are going to make their move when the emperor leaves the palace. From then on, I began searching for any trace of evidence after Wanqing's private meetings. Countless fragments came together in my mind, and a horrifying truth slowly began to emerge. This was no mere embezzlement case. It was treason. He wants to put the crown prince on the throne and rule himself as the regent grand tutor. Late that night, I returned to my quarters and opened the letter Shandai had left me. Go to the 7th tea house in Tongguo Alley, in the south of the city. Find 1A Dong. He is trustworthy. I immediately prepared to set out. Scaling the wall, I made my way to Tonglu Alley, in the south of the city, and found the dilapidated tea house, with its sign hanging by a thread. Who sent you? Shenda. He stared at me for 3 seconds, then put down his rag. He brought out a pot of tea. Beneath the teapot lay a bronze medallion. On the front of the bronze plaque, an eye is carved. And on the back, the character for Jade. This is the Emperor's Shadow Guard. How much time do you have? Less than 2 months. Before winter, the message must reach His Majesty. Speak. Start from the beginning. I took a sip of my tea, and under the flickering light of a solitary lamp, began to recount the terrifying conspiracy that could overthrow the entire dynasty. I laid out the entire plan of Wanqing's rebellion. Under the dim light, Wanqing Zhang listened in absolute silence. Of everything you just said, how much of it can actually be put on paper? I have already compiled the evidence of the salt tax embezzlement into a ledger, and sewed it into my undergarments. But I pieced together the deployment plan for the rebellion myself. There is no direct written evidence. Without written proof, His Majesty cannot touch him. Ryokang has spent 30 years building his influence in court. His roots run incredibly deep. If you go to the emperor with nothing but pieced together details, he can easily turn around and accuse you of making it all up. That is why I need your help to get this message into the palace, to let his majesty know what is happening. As for the written proof, I will keep looking for it. I can deliver the message. But you must understand one thing. His majesty is currently in poor health, and most of the court's power is held in Wanqing's hands. Even if his majesty believes you, the power he can mobilize is limited. You cannot just tell him what is happening. You must also tell him how to stop it. My heart sank. He was right. I was so focused on exposing them that I never thought about how this would end. Come back to me once you have a plan.
The doors of Tonglu Alley open at midnight and close at 2 in the morning every night.
I have one more question.
How did Shendai get to know you?
Back then, Shendai's father was the commander of the Shadow Guards. That answer left me completely stunned. So, that was it. I pushed open the door and vanished into the endless night. Once I got back to my place, I knew I had to find a way to break this deadlock. The salt tax is the root, and the military mutiny is the branch. I have to tear them both out, root and stem.
A secret imperial decree. With this secret decree in hand,
I won't be investigating this case alone anymore. I'll be acting under the emperor's own orders. I will get back to you within 3 days. Miss Zhou, we've kept our eyes on Wanqing's secret chamber for 5 years. No one has ever managed to get inside. How do you plan to get that master ledger? I'm not going to steal it. I'll make him bring it out himself.
the solid
How intriguing. 3 days later, I was on duty at the Grand Preceptor's estate, as usual, sorting through the salt administration documents for Wanqing. Wan Nugao was in a great mood today, thinking a little tune. He even did something entirely out of character, and poured a cup of tea for me. Miss Su, the petition for reforming the salt administration that you drafted for me. His Majesty has already approved it. It was all thanks to the Grand Preceptor's brilliant planning. Indeed. But enough of that. Let's talk business. Next month, during the winter solstice, His Majesty will be leaving the city to offer sacrifices to heaven. Help me make a copy of this guard roster. The first 30 names on the roster were Imperial Guard generals, but the last 20 did not belong to the military at all. These 20 men were Wanqing's private militia leaders. He planned to sneak them in among the Imperial Guards. On the day of the winter solstice, he was going to launch his coup. Storms of shock raged inside me, but on the surface, I couldn't show even the slightest tremor. I copied each name down, stroke by stroke, keeping my breathing perfectly steady and unchanged. Clutching the freshly copied roster, I walked out of the study. In the corridor, I ran into Wanqing's trusted advisor, Miss Su.
The Grand Preceptor really does hold you in high regard.
The Grand Preceptor is far too kind. I wouldn't dare disappoint him. Then Grand Preceptor treats you well. Just accept it and enjoy. But whatever you do, never get curious about the things he forbids you to touch. The last person who let curiosity get the better of him is now feeding the fish at the bottom of the moat. He smiled slightly, turned, and walked away, leaving me standing there, all alone. His words were like a poisoned thorn, digging deep into my palm and stinging with sharp pain. That night, as usual, I scaled the wall and slipped out, heading to Tungwo Lane to retrieve the reply.
Wan Yuzhang handed me another bamboo tube, identical to the first.
Inside lay the orders I had been waiting for all this time. Back at my quarters, I opened the bamboo tube. On the silk scroll inside, there were only 2 words written in cinnabar. Request granted. The secret imperial decree had arrived. From this very moment, I am investigating this case by imperial decree. I tucked it safely against my chest, for this is my shield, and also my death warrant. Next, it's time to get my hands on the master ledger of Wanqing's crimes. Ronggeil's secret chamber is hidden in his study, right behind his desk. The iron door is secured with a bronze lock, and he never lets the key leave his side. There's no way I can break in, so I won't. I only need someone to catch a single glimpse inside. Just one glance is all it takes. Sendaiwan is stationed at the northwest border. Rilchong thinks he's just a useless wreck now, but his connections are exactly what I need. I need him to plant another pair of eyes right next to Wanqing. 10 days later, while organizing the salt tax report for Wanqing, I deliberately tampered with 3 critical numbers. I lowered the production of the Foran on sodworks by 20%, raised the transit loss rate by 10%, and inflated the tax silver by 3,000 tiles. Lanzhong is more sensitive to numbers than anyone else. He is bound to notice. This silver doesn't add up. Your humble servant calculated it 3 times yesterday. Please allow me to recount it one more time. No need. I'll check it myself. I watched him walk over to the bookshelf at the very back of the study and press down on the spine of one of the books. The bookshelf slid open silently to both sides, revealing a hidden door.
He took a copper key from around his neck.
Unlocked the door and went inside. He left the door open just a crack.
Inside, there was a row of shelves, lined with about a dozen blue-covered ledgers.
He reached for the one on the far left.
The cover was labeled, The Year of Renyin.
Be more careful next time.
You copied the data for Freinan wrong.
Yes, sir. The subordinate understands.
I backed out of the study
And immediately rushed to the outhouse. I quickly wrote down the secret room's location, the mechanism's layout, and the order of the ledgers. That night, I delivered the intel to Tunglo Lane.
When I returned, I lay in bed, unable to sleep.
I know how the mechanism works now,
But the key is always on Wanqing.
it's impossible to copy over a dozen ledgers in the time it takes 2 incense sticks to burn.
Unless I don't have to copy them.
But simply stealing the master ledger won't work.
If the master ledger goes missing, Zhou will launch his rebellion immediately. And when that happens, no one will be able to stop him. I need another way.
A way where he would never suspect me. The Zhongyong camp.
If I can get in touch with the Zhaoyang camp,
It can suppress him directly on the day of his mutiny. Since Shen Dai is in the northwest, he knows Lu Biao, the commander of the Zhongyang camp. I immediately picked up my pen to write, sending all my hopes to the northwest.
2 days later, the reply from 1A Zhang arrived.
It had only one sentence. Shendai is already on his way, 30 miles south of the capital. Listu. The place where Shendai and I agreed to meet was this abandoned hunter's shack in the tense woods. I walked along the small path and found him already waiting for me inside. You've lost weight. I haven't gained any either. Come inside. Let's talk. Inside the shack, the light was dim. We sat facing each other. He pulled a letter out from his robes. The air instantly grew heavy.
I contacted the Zhongyang camp.
But there is bad news. What news?
Liu Biao, the commander of the Zhongyong camp, accepted a massive bribe from Longchong a month ago.
3,000 tiles of silver, plus the promise of a 4th-rank official title.
Liu Biao has secretly defected to Wanchong.
Are you certain? I personally went to the Zhongyang camp's headquarters to investigate.
Liu Biao's deputy told me.
He was one of my father's old subordinates. He wouldn't lie to me.
Then the Zhouyo camp is no longer an option.
It's worse than that. Mu Biao is in charge of a critical task on the night of the mutiny. To cut off all communications between the capital and the outside world. Courier stations, beacon towers, even carrier pigeons. All of them will be intercepted. The moment Wanchong strikes, the Prince of Qin's army outside won't receive a single word. How much time do we have left? 20 days before winter. But Wanchong might not wait until then. He could strike early.
So Wanqing, to be honest with you,
You've been undercover by Wanchong's side all by yourself for nearly 2 months. It's a miracle you've survived this long. But now, we can't count on the Zhouyon camp. The emperor is gravely ill, and no one in the court dares to step forward. Suddenly, the sharp snap of a breaking branch came from outside, shattering the dead silence. Both of us froze instantly. Someone's out there. A figure burst out from the bushes and collapsed right in front of the shaft's door. The person slowly lifted their head, revealing a pair of incredibly familiar eyes on a face covered in scratches. Wenyan, my younger brother Su Wenyan, lay slumped on the ground, shaking all over, like a fallen leaf battered by a rainstorm. What are you doing here? How did you find me? 1A Zhang. He told me to find you here. Sendai handed him a water skin, but my brother snatched it away, clutching it like a lifeline. Slow down. Drink slowly. I escaped from Longchong's estate. You were at Wanchong's estate. He could be a spy sent by Wanchong. No, I'm not. Sis, you have to believe me. Let him finish what he's saying first. A mutiny. November 15th. In the dead of winter. They'll strike when the emperor leaves the city to offer sacrifices to heaven. My heart skips a beat.
This perfectly matches the intelligence we previously gathered.
And what else? I also stole this. It was a call to arms, written in Wanqing's own hand.
It was stamped with his seal, and those of 12 other officials.
This is the original document. With this, no ledger even matters anymore. This is ironclad proof of high treason.
Sis, this time, let me help you. I suddenly want to say something, but the words die on my lips, choked back by the immediate danger.
Does Liu Gao know you escaped?
I've been running for 3 days and 3 nights, hiding in the mountains by day and traveling by night.
They've been hot on my heels the entire time.
Is anyone following you right now?
Then we can't stay here any longer. We quickly erase all traces of our presence and plunge deep into the forest, heading rapidly toward the capital.
But I know the danger hasn't passed.
It is right behind us, lurking like a shadow.
On the first day, to avoid the pursuers on the main road, we have no choice but to take the rugged, treacherous mountain paths.
My younger brother, Winyan, has been pampered since childhood
And is already completely exhausted.
Shindai and I have to take turns carrying him on our backs. At night, we don't even dare light a fire.
We can only huddle together under a withered tree.
With the sound of the stream as our only cover. This is the things I did in the past.
Do you still blame me?
What do you think?
I know you blame me. Honestly, if I were you, I'd hate me too. But the fact that you stole the proclamation and ran all this way to find me, well, half of my resentment is already gone. And what about the other half? As for the other half, you can make it up to me, slowly.
On the second day, as we crossed the mountain ridge,
Shendai suddenly signaled us to get down.
She sensed danger. On the main road down the mountain,
Several fast horses galloped past.
it was Li Bell's men.
By the third day, our food and water were almost gone. My younger brother's feet were covered in bloody blisters.
I gave him my shoes.
My feet are tough anyway.
I told him I was fine.
But every single step felt like walking on knives. But I had to endure this pain.
At dawn on the 4th day,
We finally saw the capital.
But there were twice as many guards at the city gates as usual.
We can't go through the main gate.
we'll enter through the water gate to the north.
That canal leads straight to the Hanlin Academy. Keep up. No matter what, I must protect this proclamation.
It's our only hope to turn things around.
The grand ceremony is today.
Crawling out of the drain in the Holland Academy's backyard, the three of us were a filthy, exhausted mess. The sky was just beginning to break dawn.
Cape Wanyuan and find a place to hide.
Are you going alone?
The ceremony has already begun.
We're too big of a target as a group.
Only I can sneak in alone. I need to change into my official robes immediately.
There's no time to worry about the mud all over me. The proclamation and the secret decree.
These are our only hope.
Nothing can go wrong.
The reflection in the mirror was haggard and exhausted.
But his eyes burned like two blazing fires. I patted his hand, letting go of his grip. Then, I turned and rushed down the inner corridor, running straight toward my destiny.
The MP corridor echoed with nothing but my own footsteps.
Every step felt like a race against death. The entire court was gathered. Zhou Zhuang was playing the emperor.
But was the real emperor even there? Success or failure rested on this single move.
I took a deep breath and pushed open the hall doors with all my might. The morning light flooded in,
And every eye in the palace stabbed toward me like a sharp sword.
Grand Preceptor Wanqing is plotting a rebellion.
Here is the ironclad proof. He's mad.
Guards!
Greg out.
4 personal guards rushed out from the sides of the hall.
their blades gleaming with a deadly, cold light in the morning sun. His personal guards grabbed my arms.
Their grip astonishingly strong. But I had to expose the truth. To everyone. This is Wanqing's handwritten manifesto.
It bears his personal seal, in the signatures of 12 co-conspirators.
Breach of court etiquette. Disrupting the secret halls.
Drag him away! I was brutally dragged backward.
The tips of my shoes leaving 2 helpless trails on the polished golden floor.
At that very brink, the curtain at the back of the hall was suddenly ripped open.
In that instant,
A dead silence fell over the entire hall. Even the sound of breathing seemed to vanish.
it was His Majesty. No frail and emaciated.
His eyes were still like 2 unsheathed blades.
Wanqing. I saw his face lose every drop of color in an instant.
How dare you?
The main doors, the side doors,
And the back doors all swung wide open at the same time.
fully armed imperial guards flooded in like a tidal wave. The guards holding me panicked.
Their hands trembling on their hilts. Utterly lost.
Drop your weapons.
They looked to Wanqing for orders.
But he remained silent.
In the end, they gave up all resistance.
I looked at Wanqing.
He collapsed to the floor, slumping down inch by inch. It was as if every bone in his body had suddenly been ripped out.
Your humble servant, Wanqing, acting on your secret decree, has uncovered the conspiracy. I hereby present the secret files of the coup for your majesty's inspection.
The emperor's hands were trembling, but a slow smile began to creep across his lips. It was the smile of a victor.
Unshoe the decree. Grand Tutor Wanqing is guilty of high treason.
Arrest him immediately. Hand him over to the Supreme Court for a joint trial.
The imperial guard stepped forward and pinned Nanchong's arms behind his back.
He didn't even struggle.
He only paused for a moment as he passed right by my side.
Do you really think?
You can escape this?
What difference does it make if it's the emperor using you? Or your own parents?
I didn't say a word. I just stared at him in silence.
Watching the man who once held the entire court in the palm of his hand being dragged away,
His words were like a poisoned needle, piercing brutally straight into my heart.
leaving me completely frozen. Did I really win?
Or maybe, I've only just jumped from one chessboard onto an even larger one.
3 days later, Wanqing was executed.
Both the Yanzheng case and the militant coup case were officially closed.
It seemed like the dust had finally settled. At court, the emperor was handing out rewards for our service, and the atmosphere was a world away from the bloodbath of just a few days ago.
Wanqing received the imperial decree.
My knelt in the very center of the imperial study.
Wearing a brand new official robe, waiting for the verdict that would decide my fate.
Wanqing courageously infiltrated the enemy's den, uncovered ironclad evidence, and crushed the rebel faction, earning the highest merit. As the decree promoting me to a 5th rank official, editor of the Suan Academy, was being read aloud,
Some bowed and offered congratulations,
while others remained in stony silence.
but no one dared to openly question it. Lord Shen was also recalled to the capital
And promoted to Chancellor of the Hanlan Academy.
When he accepted the decree, he only gave a slight nod. My younger brother,
Wanqing was spared from prosecution because he had turned in the evidence.
my parents, however, had their estate confiscated, but their lives were spared. As the court dismissed, I walked out of the imperial study and immediately saw my brother waiting for me at the end of the corridor. She saw me, and without a single moment of hesitation, she fell to her knees with a heavy thud. She didn't call me sis, she called me sister. The difference between those two words held 10 years of our lives. I walked over, leaned down, and helped her up. Without saying a single word, I only patted her on the shoulder. That night, I sat alone at my desk, the brand new official seal resting before me. Cast in solid brass, it was engraved with Scholar of Yuan Hall. I turned it over and over in my hands, staring at it for a long time. I couldn't forget the words Wanzhou said before he left. What's the difference between the emperor using you and the grand preceptor using you? Was he right? Did the emperor give me that secret decree out of trust? Or was it simply because I was a disposable pawn? If I were a man, would he still have left me to infiltrate the tiger's den all alone for 2 months? Scholar of Suan Hall, the first woman to be officially appointed to office since the founding of the dynasty. But did I earn this title under my own name, Wanqing? No. I took the imperial exam under my younger brother's name. I used the Grand Preceptor's trust to play the spy,
And relied on the emperor's secret decree to carry out my mission.
from beginning to end. I have only ever lived my life for others.
Now I want to do just one thing under my own name, for myself.
Inside the palace hall tonight, the atmosphere is solemn and quiet. The officials stand in hushed silence. The court assembly that will decide my fate is about to begin. I step out from the ranks, each step firm and resolute. The petition in my hands carries all the glory of the first half of my life. I, your humble servant, Wanqing,
Think to be flayed from my post as Scholar of Yuan Hall.
Instantly, my words stir up a massive uproar,
The entire court erupts into a low, buzzing murmur.
like a pot of boiling water. I have granted you unprecedented glory, the emperor says, and yet you reject it? Your Majesty, I am deeply grateful for your imperial favor. But I wish to do just one thing under my own name, for myself. He stares at me for a long time, long enough that I prepare myself for his thunderous wrath. Granted, he finally allows me to take off the official robes that symbolize both power and chains. From this day on, I am simply Wanqing. As I walk past Shendai, he gives me a barely perceptible nod. That was our silent understanding. When the morning light washed over me, I knew I was finally free. 3 months later, in Qinzhou, I wrote down those 4 characters with my own hands. And that was the very first thing I did, using my own name. On the first day of school, 32 girls showed up. They stood there, so nervous and shy. They didn't even know where to put their hands. Looking at those bright, eager eyes, I saw my 3-year-old self, eavesdropping on lessons outside the private school, terrified of getting caught. Starting today, none of you will ever have to study in secret again. Our first lesson, Chapter 1 of the Analects. The master said, to learn and to practice what you have learned.
Is that not a true joy?
Over the next 20 years,
This school produced Dachi's first female official, its first female mathematician, and the first woman to top the imperial examinations.
My name was eventually carved onto this plaque.
and etched forever into the pages of history.